guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be laying down some tarp for my rock paths that are going to be put around my property. The handyman was here building a deck and I asked him when he could help lay down the tarps for another job, and he said, why not? Let's do it now. So right after the deck build, we started laying down the tarp. Now, one of the reasons why I had to hire somebody in the first place is because these tarp rolls are either like 50 to 80 pounds each. They have to be unrolled from 3 feet to 6 feet, and they have to be secured into the ground with landscaping pins. When I was reinforcing the chicken coop and putting a predator apron around 2 sides, I was hammering in some landscaping pins into the ground, and it was kind of hard dirt. I hurt my elbow. I don't know what happened, but I knew that I was not going to be able to pin all of my tarp down within my whole property. I wanted to hire him. I thought maybe I could help, maybe roll the tarp out or guide where I needed stuff to be put or hold stuff in place. But it was a great thing that he was there to help, and the tarps went down. So let's get to it. I had the entire property mapped out on where I wanted to lay down these tarps. That was the easiest thing for me to do, so that when the rocks did come, that they had a direction in order to know where to go to drop their rocks instead of just randomly dropping it on the ground. One of the reasons why I am putting down these tarps is because I want to kill the grass out there in specific sections so that the grass doesn't grow up when the rocks are put down. The tarp will last for a good 2 or 3 years before weeds start growing up, and then at that point I can do something else to kill the weeds. The handyman started at the place that I was hoping, which was the beginning. Each of the rolls were 6 feet by 328 feet. As I was told, the rock place, when they drop, they're going to drop 2 inches at 260 feet. This tarp actually went past one whole load of rocks that we were expecting to happen. We laid out the tarp 3 foot all the way out, the whole 328 feet. After we unfolded it, that's when he started to put the landscaping pins inside the ground. We did this about every 6 feet of tarp, I believe, on both sides. About this time, after he laid down the first whole tarp, is when I went to the store to go get more of those landscaping pins. I did have about 100 to 200 landscaping pins to work with in the beginning, but as he was running out, that is when I went to the store to get more. All right, so I'm on my way to Tractor Supply because handyman David needs some more garden stakes so that we could keep the tarp held down for the rock path, and he's doing that part now. This is a project that I'm helping him with. We're gonna have the rocks dropped ASAP. Around the curves, he had to kind of bend the tarp a little bit and double pin it into the ground just so that it could make a secure just curve as it went around the corner. The nails that I got at Tractor Supply were kind of flimsy. Maybe they were made of aluminum, but as the handyman was putting these landscaping pins in the ground, some of them would bend. Now, this is probably no help of the hard ground, whether that be because it hadn't rained or because there might have been rocks or roots under the ground that he couldn't get through as he was hammering it down. He continued to nail down the tarp all the way around the property. After we had the first tarp laid down, we started laying out another tarp. As the tarps were being laid down, I actually saw in my mind's eye and on my piece of paper that I was planning all of this. I just saw it all coming together. As I sat there and took pictures and documented him doing this, I seriously pictured my paths going in. I believe we were on the 3rd landscape tarp when that made a roundabout going around my house. I was then able to move my fire pit into the tiny house yard, and now my tiny house has a yard, so that when I'm driving on my golf cart or I have guests over and they're doing the same, they could drive past my house and there's a little fire pit there. I'll bring out all of my chairs and tables and stuff and put that in the little yard. And then when I rent it out on Airbnb, that could be what the guests use. Again, as he was doing this, I saw my whole dream starting to come together, envisioned rocks going down on top of the tarp. I just saw my whole dream coming together, and it really is. In fact, as he continues to do this, let's take a trip around the property and see what he's done so far. Isn't that awesome? A couple of those hills I'm kind of worried about because of the rain and the weather, but I did end up purchasing a drag mat for the back of my riding lawnmower or even my golf cart, and you put 2 cinder blocks on the back of that, put it on the ground, and it kind of levels, grades your gravel surfaces. I did get that for when and if I needed it. Maybe I won't have to worry so much about the rains making divots in the road. Now we're laying down paths for the RV section. This is actually a new thing that I'm doing. I have been renting RVs. Today is actually October 30th, so I've only had one guest so far, but by the time this video is posted in about a month or more, I may have had more guests, but this whole RV section is because that one guest who stayed in an RV, he and his wife told me that the spot that I had them in was in too much sun. So he looked over to the right from where he stayed and he noticed this huge section that was covered in trees. And he said this would be a perfect spot for an RV section. Again, wheels started turning and I started forming together where I would put 4 little spots. And in the beginning, it happened to be where I had 4 spots back to back right in a row. But when I talked to the handyman about it, he kind of helped me rearrange things a little bit because the 4 spots that I had right in a row seemed to be too narrow and too small for a rig to fit in. So we put 2 on the right side and 2 on the left side. That's where we put the tarp. We nailed down 4 spots in that section, and yeah, I have 4 RV spots now that I can rent out to RVs, so that is really, really exciting. So as it stands right now, I'm gonna have multiple options for RVs to come in here. This whole black tarp is gonna be the road. This is that little section I didn't know what to do with, so I'm gonna put a path up to that middle area right there, between there, and that's where they'll come in or go out. So an RV will park right there. We've got the handy guys down there putting down the tarp for the second spot. Leads out to this way, which there's going to be another RV spot right here, and then another one right here. So there'll be pads of rocks for them to park on. Each spot is going to be designated for a specific size. So I do have a spot for a 25-foot rig, and then I have 2 spots for 45-foot rigs, and then 1 spot for about a 35-foot rig. These 4 spots are going to hopefully be able to accommodate people when they're passing through. Each of the spots is going to have a little yard, and I can put a fire pit in each of the yards, just make it a little bit homier. And when these guests come, they could have a nice place to stay. If they have any golf carts or side-by-sides or even bikes or anything like that, or if they just even want to take a walk, they could utilize the paths that are around the property. Now, the cars are only going to be allowed on the RV section side. There are going to be no cars allowed on the back side of the property. That's only going to be for golf carts, little bikes, walking, but no cars. I don't want cars or trucks back there. It's just too small back there, and I don't want the roads to be messed up because of it. Now, that big open section in the front, that is going to be partly an RV entrance. Now, my whole purpose in making this whole section an RV friendly section, I wanted multiple entrances. There's a huge opening at the side. I'm going to be putting down a bunch of rocks there so that they have an entrance and an exit if they're going to come in this way or this way. They can face my neighbor's driveway or they can face my tiny house when they park. So I just wanted to make it lots of options. I wanted to have each rig be able to decide where they would fit best. It's been my experience that staying in campgrounds and other homesteads that everything is not always peachy keen. The trees aren't always cut. The gravel isn't always correct in a spot, it's softer in another spot. So I'm just preparing the RV section for mishaps like that by having multiple options. Moving to the next section, we're going to the parking lot, and they put down 2 different strips, and that was at least 12 foot wide for a parking lot. Then there was about 4 feet that was like green grass that didn't have a tarp on it because there was rocks underneath. He said underneath this grass is all gravel, so I can't put the landscaping pins inside the ground. So you're just gonna have to wait until the rock guy gets here, roll the tarp out before he puts the rocks down, and then the grass won't grow up. Cutting trees to clear a space for the rig to park. This spot right here was cleared of a huge big pine tree branch so that the rock guy could drop his rocks. It was a pretty big branch. And then I just cleaned up a pile here, a pile that was right here. Got some firewood chunks out of it, was using my mini chainsaw. Now I'm going to work on that pile right there. And David is still up there trimming some with a pole saw. Now that the tarps are laid down, I can call the concrete company whenever I want to get these rocks dropped, and soon I will have my paths in my property. My journey and my dream is really coming together as I planned it, as I dreamed it, as I hoped it, as I manifested it, and I really hope you guys are enjoying this journey. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and click the notifications bell so you can receive a notification every time I post a new video, which is every Sunday. Thank you guys so much for watching. You are the best. I will see you in the next video. This week, I'd love to share with you, don't put that, we put down 2 different 6-foot tarps, which made it about 12 feet long. 12 feet wide. Don't put any of that. This week, I'd like to share with you my tarp being laid down for putting rocks down. Don't put any of this.